Today I'm up on Loch Etive and I've got the canoe with me. I thought I'd do a quick video today on the benefits and drawbacks of canoe camping versus conventional camping. Now you have to bear with me, I had no idea I was going to film this today, so I'm just going to make it up as I go along. Oh, and one other thing, I'm recording on equipment I don't normally use because I managed to kill all my cameras. Like all my cameras. Oh, this is a stunning morning. Now I'll go over the obvious bits first and get the patronising done and out of the way. You can fit an awful lot more in here than you can in a rucksack. Now I've been up hiking, camping up here before, probably half a mile further up, and I came with a rucksack that time, so I brought 60 litres worth of stuff. This time I've come with the canoe and I've brought two 60 litre barrels, all my fishing gear, and of course the PFDs, paddles, all that sort of thing, and I had loads of space to spare. Now this particular canoe, I think the load for it's about 450 kilograms, so when it comes to load, the canoe wins hands down. You just can't beat it for carrying stuff. Now another aspect to bringing the canoe versus hiking and carrying a backpack is the speed, is how long it takes to get here. Now I'm only I'm guessing about 5 or 6 miles from the pier where I set off. The canoe is probably a little bit slower than hiking, but again it depends how fast you hike. There's not a huge difference. So the amount of time it took me to get here probably wasn't, it's maybe within half an hour of how long it would take me to hike. Oh, it's just a stunning morning. Let's say I tried some fishing, never caught anything, never do. Don't really care though, just wanted to go out for a paddle. And I've mastered the J-stroke as well. I was well pleased with myself. No more wet knees from using double paddle. What was this video about? Oh yeah, difference between canoes and hiking. Well, legs obviously, you don't need to use your legs, but you do need to use your arms. It can get a bit tiring. Fishing. Can I make that sound any more unexciting? Right, look at it. Stunning, absolutely stunning around here. It's beautiful scenery. Got my fishing rods, out my canoe, beautiful day, on holiday from work. It's perfect. How can I not make that sound good? Fishing. Get a canoe, go fishing. Another difference between the canoe and hiking is obviously with the canoe, you need to bring a lot more stuff. You need your PFD, you need dry bags, you need basically everything in case of an emergency. An emergency when you're out hiking, you've got your first aid kit and a means to call for help, that kind of thing. You obviously need the same in a canoe, but you also need a means to get yourself to shore, should it all go horribly wrong, and keep all your stuff dry. Now, fortunately, I've never been in a situation where I've had to use any of that stuff, but all that stuff comes with me regardless. So you basically need a little bit of that storage space for the extra kit, and unfortunately with that extra kit comes a little bit of an extra expense. On the plus side, you don't wear out your hiking boots as fast. Now this might not be an obvious one. The hiking, you can go in pretty much any weather. As long as you've got the right clothing, you can hike in the rain, the wind, hail, snow, sleet, doesn't matter. In a canoe it does. You need to be aware of which way the wind's going, because obviously that makes a huge difference as to how quickly you can paddle. If you're heading into a headwind in a canoe and it's fully loaded, you're going to have a hard time. Another thing to watch is tides. I knew it wasn't going to be windy yesterday, so I thought I'll head off at any time I want. But I happened to be heading up as the tide was going out, which meant the water was going that way, and I'm going that way, which made it a fair tough paddle coming up here. This morning, I was planning on heading up there. There's a couple of old ruined buildings I wanted to go and explore. The only problem now is the tide is now going out again, which means it's heading that way, and I still want to go that way. On the plus side, when I go home tomorrow, the tide will be going that way and I'll be going that way, so that should be a nice quick trip home. That's probably the one downside to going canoe camping. I don't know how relevant that would be down south. Obviously in Scotland we can camp anywhere we want, within reason, follow the access code and you're pretty much good to go. Which means we've got loads of inland lochs and loads of sea lochs. Sea lochs being tidal, you have to be aware of that. Now the last one might sound kind of obvious, but it's where you can camp. Obviously most of the places you can go in a canoe you can also hike to, but it's a lot easier in a canoe. The biggest difference I find is finding somewhere to camp. With a canoe you can see places that you can't normally see from a trail. I mean, I've walked up this, there's a road that about 100 to 200 yards back there. Now, I've walked up that road a few times and I've never even known this place was here. It's only when I paddled up here yesterday and I went, oh, there's a nice little bay. And I got here, then I realised where I actually was, that I've walked right past this several times. The same can be said of quite a few of the places I've camped with the canoe before. I've walked around places that I've not realised there's been somewhere good to camp. You're too busy kind of looking at either side of the trail and you miss an awful lot. When you come up the water side, there's nothing obstructing your view. You can see both shores and you can see for miles in each direction. And it's so much easier to find somewhere to camp. Especially hammock camping. You just find anywhere with trees and you can pick the trees you're going to camp at before you even get there. It's just such a nice day. Just hope this camera does it justice. As I mentioned earlier, I've got different recording gear this time. I've managed to break all my action cameras, and the phones I use are just cheap Chinese ones, so they're just not up to the job. So I've borrowed Julie's old phone, this one, which seems to be recording okay, and I can use a lav mic with it, which means you might be able to hear what I'm saying for a change. But yeah, I hope it does this justice. This is just a cracking little spot to camp. Catch the sunrise in the morning, loads of firewood around, plenty of flat space, and there's a water source just over there, and another one just over there. You might say that's the kind of obvious one right there, but that's a sea loch, just a little bit on the salty side. Okay. There's some military exercises going on the west coast. Yeah, bringing the damn planes up, spoiling the peace. Yeah, beautiful serene spot like this, and what do they want to do? Hold their little war games. It seems like a standard practice for people when they're out camping and making camping videos, that they go through all their kit. I really am not into kit at all. I have kit, don't know what brand half of it is, doesn't really matter, all works. Usual hammock, under blanket, tarp, a couple of barrels. One thing I didn't mention is when you're canoe camping, you have all the canoe kit with you. Some of that canoe kit actually works well as normal kit when you're camping, such as the ground mat I'm using here. That's one of the mats I use in the bottom of the canoe. I've found on occasions when I've been struggling to find somewhere to tie the tarp up to have it so it gives you plenty of headroom, you just take some of the paddles out and you can use the paddles to tie things down. You can branch the paddles between trees and lash them up and stuff, and they give you a nice good solid base for hanging stuff. Another thing as well, you've obviously got things like bow lines and stuff on the canoe, which are good strong rope with carabiners on them, and they can come in really, really handy. The canoe itself as well, depending on where you're camped. I mean, a lot of the time you can pull the canoe up onto the bank and you can sit in the canoe or use it to keep things dry. It's just a really handy thing to have lying around. Anyway, as I was saying, the canoe is great for being able to find somewhere good to camp. But I say the things like tide and weather do make a difference as to where you can go in it. So there are some downsides. One other downside is when you camp, when you've got the canoe, you're kind of restricted to where you can go and what gear you can take when you leave your camp. Now, I could walk to Cadderlie, which is just round the corner there, but I'd need to leave all the gear here, because obviously there's far too much gear for me to carry. If I was camping with a backpack, I'd just throw the backpack on and head round and all my gear's secure in my bag. Obviously here, there's too much to carry, so if I wanted to head round to Cadderlie, I need to either take the canoe or leave all my gear sitting here. Now, it's isolated enough out here, it'll be safe, but if you're somewhere that's a little more built up or a little more populated, that might be a concern. Certainly up in Scotland, everywhere's isolated. I mean, we live in the Highlands, so there's nobody here. See? Nobody. I'm waffling again. I'm also running out of things to say. I really should have researched this before I came out. Had a plan as to what I was going to talk about. But as it is, no. I'm just making it up as I go along. Coffee time. Another thing worth noting as well, if you're camping with a canoe, is when you find someone to park, is that the word, park? Beach, moor. When you park your canoe, bear in mind that if you're in a sea loch, the tide's going to move. And last night when I parked the canoe, I pulled it a good maybe 30 yards up the beach, up to where I was camping, thinking that I'll be miles away from where the tide comes in, because it seems quite steep here. Then of course I'm sitting at the fire last night, and I was aware that it was dark, and I was aware of the tide coming in, and got a torch out and I looked down, and the water was just touching the back of the canoe. I didn't think it was going to come anywhere near that far up, so it's just something you should be aware of. I always tie the canoe up when I park it. There must be a better word than park. Anyway, always tie the canoe up when it's parked, just in case. Because you don't want to wake up in the morning and find you've got no way home. Because that would be bad. I think I'm going to come back to this wee spot again. Absolutely cracking little spot. See, there's loads of firewood around. See, there's virtually not a soul anywhere. Beautiful scenery. Plenty of places to put the hammock up. And easy access to the water. And there's fish in there. I caught a fish. Just one, but I caught it. All by myself. I guess overall camping with a canoe is a bit kind of like car camping, or soft camping as I call it. You get a mixture of this soft camping and wild camping as well. Get lots more gear, so you're a lot more comfortable, but you are out in the middle of nowhere, which is the best part. This is just stunning. Just look at that. Just look. That's why I like having a canoe. Get to go to cool places. I'm going to have you wander along the coast here on foot. Take the camera with me, see what I can catch. Now, believe it or not, this area actually used to be quite heavily populated. There was a settlement just around the corner called Cadderlie. Cadderlie now is basically just a bothy. There's nothing else there. But look at this. Potential widowmaker in future. Oh, right. Yeah. Someone's obviously been camped here in the past. Quite a while ago, because there's mushrooms growing in the fire pit. This is a cracking little spot. I've never been a fan of leaving fire pits around the place, or even using one if it's already there. You know, just encouraging more of them. But if they're out somewhere like this, I mean, you're not going to just come across this. You couldn't really call it an eyesore if you can't see it. That one I can forgive. People refer to the land access laws in Scotland as being, you know, the be all and end all, and that's why you can go and camp anywhere you like. And people are very, very quick to quote them. There's nothing saying you can't have a campfire, or you know, you can't go certain places. It pretty much gives you the right to roam pretty much anywhere you want. They're always very, very quick to forget that very first line. The first line of the access code states that you shouldn't camp near buildings, near roads, which rules out car camping, and historic sites. Now that's something I'm a huge advocate of, is don't camp near historic sites. There's a fair few places I've been that I thought would make great campsites. The only problem with that is they're scheduled monuments. A lot of the times you'll find that a scheduled monument is not just the building or the historic building that's there, but also the land around it. And the reason for that is because archaeologists have found, you know, axe heads and arrowheads and pottery and such in the area around the building. That's why you're not meant to camp on it, because it's a find site. So you can actually look it up and you can see if the place you fancy camping is a scheduled monument. I've seen quite a few people camping lately where they've been camping in places they really shouldn't be. I think a lot of these new campers who are turning up, you know, kind of new to wild camping, and I use the term wild very loosely there, they are not wild camping because they don't meet the definition of wild camping. Wild camping does not mean next to the road, does not mean with your car, does not mean big groups, does not mean staying for days on end. The access code in Scotland is very specific about that. It's in the first few lines. It's not difficult to look up. The car camping, which is a majority of the one that's causing all the problem. Now, I'm not blank putting everybody in this same bracket. There's a huge amount of people, and that vast majority of people will go car camping, and they'll clean up after themselves, clean up after other people in many cases, and that's definitely to be commended. But it's becoming so popular that people are just leaving mess everywhere. That small minority are going to ruin it for everybody else. This is just going to turn into a big rant. Yeah, it's a big rant about dirty camping. I know the internet's awash with people complaining about dirty camping these days. Well, there's one more for you. There's absolutely no excuse for it. And back at campsite. My nice, clean, tidy, litter-free campsite. Anyway, enough ranting. This is what you want to wake up to. I keep using the word stunning, but it is. Right. I've taken a wee wander up onto the road here, just behind the campsite. I'm going to take a walk up and get to Cadderlie. I also need to refill the water bottles as well, so stuck in the rucksack. I can actually hear a stream now. That's the one that comes out down next to the campsite, but I'm going to go a little bit further up because I think there's a field up here and I don't know what's in the field, so I'll get the water from behind the field. I mean, I've got a water filter and I say I can boil it, but to be honest, most of the time I don't bother. You can just drink straight from the streams. Most of the water you can get up here is pretty much just safe to drink. Yeah, I know this was supposed to be a video about canoes versus conventional wild camping. I I will get round to finishing that part, but I'm out for 3 days, so you're going to have to put up with me ranting and walking about aimlessly, taking pans of stuff, because it's all worth taking pans of. Now, I may mention before, but this area used to be quite heavily populated. This was a settlement of Cadderlie. Cadderlie was, mostly farms, crofts, and now it had been pretty much abandoned by the start of the First World War, with the remaining able-bodied men being drafted off to fight, and Cadderlie basically ceased to be. I think there was one shepherd that was left to look after the area. That shepherd happens to be, I think it was the grandfather of the singer Dougie McLean, who did the song Caledonia. He also wrote a song specifically about Cadderlie. I'll stick a link for that in the description as well. It's quite a good song. If you like Dougie McLean, that is. I could swear Cadderlie was closer. Yeah, back to the canoe camping pros and cons. Obviously I'm hiking away from the canoe just now. Now, fortunately, I'm in an area that's not very highly populated. Very, very few people here. So I'm okay leaving the canoe there. I'm quite confident they'll still be there when I get back, along with all the phones and camping gear and everything else I've left there. I'd imagine there's slightly more populated places you might not want to do that. But for me, that works okay. This is us getting to Cadderlie. See, it's not too bad an area to live. There's various what appear to just be piles of stones. That's the remains of the Cadderlie settlement. They used to be people's houses. I'm going to apologise in advance here for the amount of pans that are going to be in this video. Everything just looks amazing. So, last time I was here it was pouring with rain, so it still looked amazing, but not as glorious as this. Now this is pretty much all that's left of Cadderlie. Just the bothy. Now this is the part that interests me a little bit more. These are the original buildings for Cadderlie itself. That one looks a bit too big to be a house. And this would have been possibly somebody's house at some point. This one here a bit more recognisable as a dwelling. Just find it really sad that there's places like this, out in beautiful areas like this, completely abandoned, just falling to ruin. Yet people these days are crammed into tiny flats in towns and cities. Cadderlie bothy's quite a popular bothy around here. Lots of people come up and stay in it. I'm just wondering how many of the people who stay in it are aware of the history of the actual area itself. And there's just loads of buildings here. Well, loads of the remains of buildings. There's another one here. See, the Cadderlie nowadays, it's just a field. Don't like the way they're all staring at me. So it's just sad that this was a township at one point. It all came to an end because of people's greed and warmongering. Yeah, things don't seem to change very much, do they? Just going to go up and have a wee look in the bothy. Yeah, plenty of bunk space. Another wee fireplace. An awful lot of stuff left around in here. When you sure you can take plastic bottles with you if you bring them. Another bunk room. Well, that was Cadderlie bothy. I'm going to take a wee trek back. I was hoping to find the old millstone. Oh, no, actually. Pause there. There's more buildings. I was actually hoping to find the old millstone. Apparently there's an old millstone lying around here somewhere from the original settlement. Jesus. What? Cool box. A little bit more of a few more buildings here. This looks more like a sheepfold than anything else. It's too big to be a building. And there's even rubbish left in here as well. Well, that was Cadderlie. What's left of it. I'll head back to my campsite now. Just looking up at Ben Cruachan and thinking, that looks beautiful up there. It looks really, really pleasant. I'll just put in a little bit of video of the last time I was at the top of Ben Cruachan. It's a little bit different from today. There's just a little contrast. I've just spotted something I didn't notice on the way up the Cadderlie. Down here, there's what appears to be a stone wall and a flat bit of ground. It looks like there was a road. This is obviously the forestry track I'm on just now, but that looks like there was a road down there originally that would have travelled up to Cadderlie. Now, that's actually got me thinking. Where I'm camped just now, see, it's a nice flat bit of ground. There's lots of trees growing up through the flat ground, but it's nice and flat and it's right next to the water. But it's, you know, behind the tide line, which is why I'm camped there. But it just seems very, very flat, and it's quite a long stretch. I'm just wondering if that is the continuation of that road that would run all the way from there, all the way down to Bono. Cadderlie was quite a bustling community at one point, so obviously they'd have been trading with their counterparts down at Bono and Inverrah and Tinault, and Connell and Oban. Note to self, the camera's there, not there. I'm just that used to talking to an action camera where you look at the lens, and now that I'm talking to a phone, the lens is there, not there. That's going to take some getting used to. Okay, so that wasn't exactly the video I was looking to do. It's supposed to be about canoe camping versus wild camping, and it's just turned into me ranting for a while. There's some information there you might find useful. The scenery has been just absolutely stunning, the weather's been great. It's meant to turn tomorrow for the way back, but it's meant to be a windy heading that way, along with the tide going that way, so I might not even need to paddle. That could be good. I suppose I should just summarise all the pros and cons of the canoe camping. Pros: the amount of stuff you can carry, the kind of places you can access, usability of a lot of the equipment you take with you, specifically for canoeing, that you can also use for camping, saves you having to double up on equipment. The cons: the security of the boat if you wanted to go elsewhere, the limitations on where you can camp. Obviously you need to be near the water, which kind of goes without saying really. You can't really go too far from it, or you've that same security issue. Another con being the extra equipment you need to take, making sure everything's in dry bags, that kind of thing. Get yourself a canoe, get out wild camping. Not soft camping, wild camping. Yeah, night fishing. Kind of like day fishing, except it's dark. There's more planes flying around tonight. I think there's some military exercise. Well, you'll see the footage of the C-130 flying past. There is a big exercise going off on the northeast and northwest coast. I think it's this weekend. There was something in the press about them trying to get rid of the bottlenose dolphins and any whales from, is it the Holy Loch or Loch Long? It's one of the lochs on the west coast. Apparently they were trying to scare the whales out of the way so they could have their military exercise. There's no way you should be scaring off the natural wildlife from its own habitat so you can have your little war games. Morning. Last day, so quick coffee, get packed up, and head off. Now that is a beautiful view. Packed up, ready to go, and as always, leave no trace, leave no trace. Yeah, clean up your mile. Don't be a twat. If you've enjoyed watching this, please give us a like, subscribe, and click the wee notification bell icon, wherever it is. I don't know what side it's at anyway. There's a bell somewhere, just click on it. I don't know how much footage I'm actually going to use of this because I've been talking piss for 2 days.